What's up, fellas? Another episode of the Blind Pig podcast, courtesy of bgobsession.com. If you're new here, hook us up with that subscribe button. Give us a like, a share, and a follow. You can find us on all major audio podcasting platforms, all major social media platforms, youtube.com if you want to watch along. Cheers to you. Hang out. And, of course, at the mothership at bgobsession.com.
So Derek, I've been taking an alcohol break, So I'm gonna pimp a couple of brands here. Stella Artois makes a pretty good non-alcoholic beer. That's the best one I've found so far. And then this weekend I bought some Blue Moon. It tastes just like Blue Moon. That's the bad part. I'm really not a huge fan of Blue Moon, and a little too citrusy for me. But anyway.
All right, I got a couple of recommendations for you then. If you haven't,
one more, Bob. Heineken makes a non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah, you had that last week.
All the skunk, but none of the good alcohol. It tastes skunky, but there's no
there's no payoff.
So I keep two NA brands in the house. One is anything Sierra Nevada puts out that's non-alcoholic has been great for me. And the other one is a brewery that only produces non-alcoholic stuff, and that's Athletic. If you see NA stuff from either of those two, highly recommend it. Sierra Nevada.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sierra Nevada makes they for my money, they make the best non-alcoholic American IPA on the market. It actually tastes like an American IPA. It's really good. I'll drink that on Saturdays when I'm working with power tools and I don't want to have actual alcohol. But yeah,
so you actually listen to those warning labels.
Yes. Well, sometimes I listen to the warning labels. So
no heavy machinery in your garage there, Bob?
Yeah, exactly. I saw a great meme tonight. The guy argued with the police that he shouldn't get a DUI because he only drank at stoplights.
Well, it's dry January, so thank God there's only 9 more days left or whatever.
There you go. All right. Well, sorry, Derek.
You're fine.
Uninterrupt you.
It's all good. I think we kind of figured, or I figured, there wasn't too much movement right now on the coaching front. We could do a little roster construction, review 2025's roster, see what we're looking at as far as who's going to be coming back, how our depth chart's going to actually look as we enter free agency. Before I step into that, I will just a couple news and notes. Looks like Brian Flores has signed a new contract with the Vikings. He's off the market. Mike McDaniels is basically signed a new contract with the Chargers to be their offensive coordinator. That's probably a 1-year gap, maybe 2 years until he's got another head coaching job, especially if Herbert plays to, a better level. And as of today, we were bringing in Al Harris on an official interview. So I know John feels pretty passionately about Al Harris. I'll let him say how passionately and in what direction. But
I was really excited about Al Harris until I found out that we were interviewing him for defensive coordinator and not signing him to play in the backfield. I was all hyped up. Yeah, Al Harris is coming. I have nothing against Al Harris, but here's the thing, we have to hit the DC hire out of the park. I feel like we do because our defense is atrocious, and we had to replace Joe Witt Jr. I just don't know how I feel about taking a guy that's never been a DC. We've already got a new guy that's never been an offensive coordinator. Now we're going to have a defensive, and I'm less worried about that because we have Jaden Daniels and some strong position coaches. But man, if we hire a guy who's never been a DC before to right the ship, I don't know how I feel about that. And I know the claim to fame for Al Harris is, he was there in Dallas with Quinn, with Trevon Diggs, who set an NFL record in 2021. Then he was there with Deron Bland, who had that ridiculous set the pick six record. I think one of those was against us, by the way.
The breaker was against us. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah. So, but to me, that so what? I mean, I don't know. What did Al Harris have anything to do with those two players? I don't know. Maybe he did. I'm just looking at Chicago this year, and their passing defense is 22nd in the league in yards given up, 28th in the league in touchdowns given up. They are first in interceptions, so we've established that Al Harris is pretty good at coaching guys up to take the ball away. But that's just a small part of it. So I don't know, man. It's, again, nothing against Al Harris. What the hell do I know about Al Harris other than what I just, read off my notes here? I just think Dan Quinn, man, I almost wish he'd stop hiring people he already knows because I don't know. I don't want that to be I don't want him being comfortable to be the reason that we hire a coach. I want a good coach that's a proven good coach, and I don't think Al Harris is that yet. So I know they're just interviewing him. He hasn't been hired or whatever, but I'm a little concerned because I was really hoping that they had something cooking with Flores and that we'd somehow pull a coup there, but that's not to be, obviously. So, and then Graham is the other guy that I've heard of, I hear a lot of buzz about, but I don't know a lot about Patrick Graham.
Yeah. I kind of I like the Al Harris idea early on as it's been going on. It's that's tempered a good bit. But I'm starting to really wonder as I start looking at the actual timeline. I'm wondering if this, unfortunately, isn't a circumstance less about a poor decision-making process and or evaluation process and more about the fact that the music's turning off and they're starting to run out of chairs. Guys that they had circled well above Al Harris have decided to go elsewhere. And this is something we talked about on the board quite a bit, is it takes two to tango, and we aren't exactly the premium job, especially on the defensive side of the ball right now. And generally I speak a little more positively, but the truth is that, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, a little bit tonight. Now you're turning over another large part of your roster. You do not have anything elite on the defensive side of the ball. Presumably, your early pick is going to go defensively, but there's no guarantee to that. And so I don't know that Brian Flores would leave Minnesota to come here. I don't know that Ulbrich would want to come here. I don't know that Gannon would want to come here. And knowing beyond that, if everybody's right, that Quinn's going to be staring down the barrel of the hot seat halfway into next season, if you want to develop as a defensive coordinator, young defensive coordinator, and develop in this league, you generally don't hitch your wagon to a guy who's potentially only going to be there in a year and you're getting blown out and then it looks bad on you. So I just wonder if often I think that this is a little different than the offensive side of the ball, where I think they had to make a move quickly. On the defensive side of the ball, they've had guys that they've had circled, and those guys just don't have the interest in being here, and now they're moving on to their secondary and tertiary options, and it's going to be underwhelming to the point of a lot of people on the board.
And here's just another thing to throw out there, since I'm on the negative train here of late. We knew that Joe Witt Jr. was dead man walking probably a third of the way through the season, right? I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think they knew. I mean, they certainly knew when they took play calling duties away from him.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had most of the season to think about who is going to be the home run hire that we can get, like who. And I know there's restrictions in what we can do in season, but the other thing is, half the DC vacancies are not guys that got fired because they suck. They're guys that got fired that are losing their job because the coach got fired and the whole coaching crew is getting swept out of there. And there's a bunch of those. So you're talking about so I just feel like we should have, it just feels like it's another one of those things where we're just behind the curve and not being aggressive enough. And it also, I think, calls into question. Everyone always talks about Dan Quinn and how well regarded he is and well liked around the league. Well, I mean, is he? I don't know. Is he that well regarded? Because he can't seem to, find or retain really high quality coordinators. So I don't know. And I know I'm being harsh. I am being harsh on him. I recognize that. But I am concerned because I think if we don't get this defense in a lot better place in 2026, he's going to have bigger problems than what he's got right now.
Yeah, the funny part of this is I can see from where we are right now all of those perspectives. Here's the thing. We just watched Buffalo fire Sean McDermott for not winning a Super Bowl after going to 7 consecutive off seasons. Several of those they played in the championship game and lost to the team that won the Lombardi. Kind of tough to really slight that, right? And yet the guy gets let go because that's not successful. I'm not sure what. I mean, obviously, I haven't had dinner with Josh Harris in a couple of months. So I'm not sure exactly what he currently considers successful for this football team right here, right now. I'll be honest, I'm not even sure what I consider successful for this football team right here, right now. And I want to tie where I'm going with this is, I don't know that it's a given that Dan Quinn's on the hot seat by the middle of this next season if things aren't necessarily going well. I think we have a pretty good idea exactly how bare the cupboard is, especially on defense right now. If I were a DC coming here and we reach the part of the interview where I get to ask questions of the head coach and the general manager, my first question for Adam Peters is, what are you doing with that first pick? Do I get it? And if the answer is, I don't know what I'm doing with that pick, then I think my answer is, I think there are other jobs out there I'm interested in, because you need a game breaker on defense. And until you get the game breaker on defense that looks like Jaden Daniels looks to the offense, you should be blowing every first-round draft pick on guys on the defensive side of the ball. Period. The end. This offense can't get good enough to cover up for a defense that gave up 35-plus points 4 times this season. You don't do that. You cannot expect that. Football is a complementary sport. It's great that you've got an offense that you believe can go out and put up 30 every week. You've got to have a defense you have confidence that can go out and stop somebody from putting up more than 24 every week if you want to maintain a winning percentage. Because sooner or later, that we're averaging 30 a week turns into, I put up 36 against the bottom dweller last week, and this week I only put up 24 against the top defense, but my defense gave up 35. You can't do that. And you can't win championships that way, because once you get into the playoffs, shit's real every weekend. So I don't know that Dan Quinn is on the hot seat yet. I also don't know if defensive coordinators want to come here, because I'm not sure they're getting the answer they want to hear when they start asking the right questions.
I agree with 90% of what you said, but if an owner can fire McDermott after what he's accomplished,
or John Harbaugh,
you don't think Dan Quinn might be on the hot seat? We have another season of 6 or 7 wins or lower.
Yeah, but see, the difference there is you've got a process in place with Sean McDermott. You've got a process in place with a guy like Harbaugh. You've got a fairly consistent front office in both cases. Now, if you've plateaued and nothing is changing, you guys know the definition of insanity as much as I do, right? It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So they've done the same thing with the same guys over and over again for how many years in Buffalo, and they've gotten decent results, but they haven't gotten spectacular results. This is a franchise that has how many Super Bowl appearances without a trophy? They had 4 in a row at one point. I know that.
But the point still stands. And, the thing is, we're going to be having this pod next year, and there's 3 years of data, and we talk
That's
like
true.
we talk like Harris and Peters and Quinn just got here. They didn't. This time next year, we're going to know what they did in 2026, and it's going to be 3 years.
That's
3
true.
years is a long time in the NFL. Like you can throw the excuses out and maybe get away with 2 years, but by the third year, man, if you're not showing something, how many coaching vacancies are there this year?
Detroit turned it around in 3 years. If the lowly Lions can turn it around in 3 years, you would think this franchise can too.
Yeah.
I do agree. One note, I will
admittedly,
say,
the lowly Lions turned it around with a shit ton of first-round draft picks too, that we don't have.
One other point to that, and one of the things that I've said on the board, and I've gotten into some conversations, is I hope fans don't continue to compare Adam Peters and Dan Quinn to, or even Adam Peters to guys like the ones that are GMing Philadelphia and Baltimore, Kansas, the premium franchises in the league. Because the worst thing that happened, I shouldn't say the worst thing. The first year that the Baltimore GM took over, he was taking over after 20 years of Ozzie Newsome making draft picks, not 4 years of Ron Rivera making draft picks. You know what I mean? Like, to Philly, these guys have been in place for the better part of a decade for the majority of them. New England, he's taking over after one of the greatest football minds of the in NFL history was the guy running the personnel department and constructing that roster. So there's going to be flip, and again, we'll talk about it today with the depth chart as we break down the depth chart. But when you're turning over just an eroded roster, you're not taking over in year 1 and 2 of a new GM and coach within foundation of a quality roster, and now you're adding pieces and maintaining the scheme. You are starting borderline expansion team at this point because you're starting almost over. So that's kind of where I come from, where I probably have a little more patience than a lot of people. And I get it. 3 years is a long time in the NFL. You're not wrong, John. And to be fair, I do kind of agree with you. If we go in and if we come out of year 3 and we're still asking a lot of the same questions and we don't really have a true direction, I agree. I mean, we need to start having some really hard conversations about but given the circumstances, I don't think we were as bad as we were this year. I tend to not think we were as good as we were last year. I think last year was a bit fluky. It was a lot fluky.
Fair. That's fair.
So if we're talking about realistic timelines, we definitely had a regression. I don't think it was as bad as it could have been. I think it was a lot worse than it probably should have been. But year 3 is gonna paint a big picture. If Quinn can get the ship pointed again in the right direction, even if it's not an NFC Championship appearance, I think that goes a long way to say, all right, well, let's see what the rule is and not the exception. But anyways, we're gathered here today to break down the roster a little bit. John said you had a list of all of the free agents, but I think, how do we want to do this, boys? Do we want to go free agents, or do we want to go like position group by position group?
Why don't we do? I like going by position group, and then I'll list out the free agents as for each of the position groups.
Okay, cool. So, the easiest way to do that then is quick recap of the current Commanders roster quarterbacks. We'll start there. Obviously, Jaden Driscoll is still listed on our roster, and Sam Hartman, Josh Johnson, Marcus Mariota. I believe, and John, you can confirm this. The only quarterback under contract beyond now is Daniels and Hartman. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine Hartman's probably gone.
I can't imagine that they won't sign Marcus. And we don't even need to get into the reasons. I think we all know the reasons. He's a good style fit with, he's got a similar play style to Jaden, so you don't have to completely change the offense if he has to go in. And even though he wasn't as good this season when he was called on, well, he was called on a lot, so that makes it more difficult. but I think he's a pretty serviceable, experienced backup. So I'd be really surprised if they don't get a deal. And I think he likes it in DC. I think he likes being.
I tend to agree. I think they look to get a deal done. The only thing that could hold up there is if Kingsbury lands somewhere and Kingsbury brings him in and kind of inflates the payroll a little bit to have his guy there, right? Like that's an easy second
I could
coach.
I could potentially see Kingsbury bringing him in to be a starter for a season.
Depending on where he goes,
if somebody's willing to dangle a starting position in front of him, he's not going to come here to. He's not going to come here to play second fiddle.
I can't imagine that happening. He's too old. He's too long in the tooth for that.
What if Kingsbury ends up in Vegas? Well, no, Vegas has number 2, right? No, number 1. They're taking Mendoza. I don't know. That's right. Sorry. Butterfly. I tend to agree that this probably is the most comfortable position for him. But like I said, I just wonder if Kingsbury doesn't, even if it's not a starting position, if we're offering him 8 and Kingsbury says, look, I want you to be my guy. We've got a rookie here. I want you to be my mentor. I'll pay you 17, right? Like, I mean, that's enough money to make you really think about, or not really think that. I mean, that would be a boneheaded move almost on his part to pass up double the money to stay in Washington in a new offense, by the way.
Maybe.
Well, all we can do is say who we think they should keep. I don't think we need to speculate on what are the necessarily whether the player wants to stay or
right.
That's fair. So QB, we think they should make it. Obviously, Jaden is under contract. Like I said, I don't think Hartman is in the long-term plans of any NFL team. At a middle, I guess he could be on our practice squad next year and just stay there, just live there like he did this year because he's still on his rookie deal.
Josh Johnson is also a free agent, and I think we're going to say goodbye to him. That would be my guess.
I would think so.
Mm-hmm. All right, so right now, I would say we have Daniels, Mariota, Hartman. Theoretically, if we were penciling in, we probably had to add 2 more guys this offseason, whether that be late draft pick, whatever, veteran guys to come in and compete.
Somebody off somebody's practice squad.
Yeah, I don't think Hartman. I personally think they need to move on from Hartman because the guy just doesn't have an NFL arm, and I don't care what level you're at. If you don't have an NFL arm, you don't have an NFL arm.
And they made it pretty clear that they were signing guys off the street to play in the last month of the season and not playing Hartman when they had no real benefit to winning. Like,
yeah. I mean, if we'd been chasing a playoff spot, I can see signing guys with a little bit more, experience who've played in the system. I mean, actually played in the system as opposed to just a couple of preseason appearances. But yeah, I think the writing's on the wall for Hartman. Otherwise, why don't you play the kid in meaningless? We had 3 meaningless games at the end of the year. You could have at least given him a half somewhere.
They already know. That's why.
That's right. That's right, John. They already know. So, yep.
Move forward in the depth chart. Running back. I think the only guy currently on the roster that is signed beyond this year is Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Currently, we also have.
Go ahead.
We also have Chase Edmonds, Jeremy McNichols, and Chris Rodriguez listed. I believe Rodriguez is a restricted free agent, and McNichols and Edmonds are both UFAs. Is that right?
Yeah, and I would say we got to bring McNichols and Rodriguez back. That's my vote. Unless we go running back with the first pick or something. I mean, with the 7th pick, I think we would be unwise not. I think both of those guys did a hell of a job. I probably like both of those guys more than I do Bill, to be honest with you. But that's just I know I'm in the minority on that.
I think that if we're going to make a big move in free agency, I think running back is one of the positions that we make a big move at. Like, I could see us making kind of a splash there. I don't think it's going to come in the draft. So I could see I like both McNichols and Rodriguez, but I don't know that I have to have those two guys back if you address it in other ways.
Yeah.
If you bring in a premium guy like a Breece Hall, or something like that, and you want to sign another guy off to another free agent or another late draft pick, I could see that too. But
well, Eckler's also a free agent. We didn't mention him, but I think we all assume that with the injury and his age, that they're probably not going to want to re-sign him.
Or he might not even. He might
seasons in a row.
Hang it up.
Yeah, yeah, I can totally see that too, Derek. That's where I was headed. Was at his age, it's entirely possible he's going to go, dude, I finished the last 2 seasons on injured reserve. Let me walk out of here while I can walk out of here. So I don't expect to see Eckler back for many different possibilities there. I love Bill.
Yeah.
I think Bill has real possibilities as a mainline back, unlike some of the guys on the board. And understand, guys, I respect. So, I freely admit that I sure don't necessarily know everything. I don't know if we make a big splash. Maybe we do. I don't think Hall is going to be a free agent this year.
Yes.
Is he? And okay, interesting. Maybe he decides to leave there, although he's got his own injury history too. So he'd be a fun guy to have.
I don't know, John, I'm kind of with you, and we've talked about this on the board. I like Krosky Merritt, but I don't know that I like him to be a cornerstone player. I think he absolutely has a role in the NFL, and I think he can be a weapon. But I'm not looking at him a guy. I don't think he's ever going to be Jonathan Taylor. I don't think he's ever going to be DeAndre Swift. I don't think he's ever going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. And I mean, we're talking about premium talent. I get it, but I don't know that he's ever going to be. He could probably find a way to 1,000 yards, but I don't think he's ever going to be a focal offensive.
Well, we've just spent a month talking about the reason they canned Kingsbury, the reason they came to a mutual understanding with Cliff Kingsbury is that he wouldn't run the damn ball the way they wanted him to. So to me, that begs the question, maybe we're going to put a high priority on the kind of back you're talking about. Getting kind of,
and maybe we're going to put a high priority on changing scheme. I mean, I see a lot of people talking about potentially shifting back to a traditional, Shanahan style zone running scheme. And Bill may be a great,
we don't know,
cut go back, right?
We don't know whether the O-line can handle that, and we don't know whether our running backs are built for that. So that's
I would remind everybody that Terrell Davis was like a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick. It's not like Terrell Davis was picked in the top 10 of the NFL draft. Nobody expected him to be who he turned out to be. He just happened to
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, exactly. He just happened to fall into the right place at the right time. And it's entirely possible that if we shift to something that better suits Bill's skills, he suddenly becomes that guy. It's also possible that he could fit that. He's not this dude, but that the Achane role that they've got in Miami, right? Where he didn't run the ball all that. He is not the workhorse back. Somebody else is the workhorse back. He just happens to be the guy that breaks everything because he's such a weapon, and they only give him the ball like 12 to 15 times a game. So,
right. And I think that's the bigger position for him, where it's 10 to 12 reps, maybe a couple catches, but he's not a guy. You're never going to ask him to be Jonathan Taylor, right? You're not going to ask him to be that guy, but he can be the guy that can come in when it's 3rd and 9 and take a draw play for 65, like that. You like, but on to tight ends. Zach Ertz obviously ended up on the IR. Big question on whether or not he hangs it up. He was on a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. Huh?
Is it really a big question?
Well, I think the way they talk about him, it makes it sound like they'll bring him back. I don't know. I mean, I know he's good when he's healthy, but I don't know. I think it's time to move on. I would hope that that's the kind of discussion where we're like, we got to get younger. We got to get younger.
Yeah. And that injury happened so late in the season. It's not like he's going to be ready to go the first quarter, maybe even first half of this season next year. I don't know. At his age, I feel like he's probably done. But
yeah, I think the only other tight end that is
it's very possible. He's the only free agent, right?
No, Tyree Jackson, who we don't.
Tyree Jackson, who also ended up on the IR, who we have no idea what he's got. Like he might have flashed a little bit in preseason, but I don't think he showed anything. Did he?
No, I don't know. I don't remember him.
He's listed at 6'7", 249. Like he's not.
I think they're looking at this, and my guess is Ben Sinnott gets a season to prove he's either the guy or not the guy.
I know all across America, Commanders fans are going, weren't we supposed to do that in 2025?
Well, and I mean, it's something that maybe we haven't talked about, but it's entirely possible that Cliff Kingsbury's relying on older guys we know don't have much left in the tank instead of developing
guys that can play.
Well, but instead of developing younger guys that are on the roster that could be here for the next 10 years. I mean, I think at some point in time, you got to look at the offensive coordinator and go, dude, you never called his number. How do you know?
To that point, Zach Ertz putting up 900 yards versus Ben Sinnott putting up 600 because he's developing looks better for the offensive coordinator. I'm not saying that Kingsbury was necessarily doing that, but I can definitely see the argument, especially somebody who's got head coaching aspirations, to say, I'm more interested.
We overthink these things sometimes. It's like
I agree. At the end of the day, they're going to do what they think is going to put them in the best position to win football games.
And it's about the quarterback's trust in the guy. He's like, I'm not going to throw it to Ben Sinnott when I've got Zach Ertz to throw it to. I mean, I think that's just a real.
Except for the fact that Ben Sinnott seems to catch everything that's thrown in his direction, while Zach Ertz was a 50-50 guy for part of the year. And sadly, the 50% he dropped were the desperate ones we needed. He was good for a flag or a drop once a game that hurt us bad this year.
All right, on to wide receivers. If I'm not mistaken, the only 3 wide receivers we have under contract coming out of 25 are Terry McLaurin, Jalen Lane, and Luke McCaffrey. That would mean that Deebo Samuel. Huh?
Go ahead.
I believe that means Deebo Samuel, Treylon Burks,
Noah Brown.
I got the list in front of me. Noah Brown, Robbie Chosen. They're all free agents.
They're all free agents, right? Noah Brown ended up on the IR. I have to imagine that experiment is over. The Robbie Chosen experiment, whatever. We've got a name that's on the future reserve list that's a little interesting, and Ja'Cory Brooks. He's one that a lot of people have talked about, and I wonder if he finds a way. I think, honestly, of the free agents, the only name I've got, Treylon Burks and Deebo. I wouldn't mind seeing Deebo back for a 2-year deal. I think, and John and I were talking about this before cameras came on. I think he was asked to do things that he should not be asked to do. Honestly, and I don't think he got a chance to really be what he can excel at. He was trying to be our number 1 receiver for a large part of the season. And he performed.
This was my point before we came on tonight. We gave up a 5th-round pick to San Fran for Deebo. If we gave up a 5th-round pick for one 2025 season and don't re-sign the guy, now I'm not saying we can pay him like 4 times what he's worth, but that's malpractice. Why are you giving up 5th-round picks when you're desperately trying to rebuild a roster, as we've already talked about, for one season? You can't do that. You cannot. I know it's only a 5th-round pick, but you can get really good players in the 5th round. So and like Derek said, if if we can get a bookend for Terry that's actually a number one or a number two, a legit number one, number two, then Debo becomes this incredible tool to have. You know, you can put him anywhere out there. You're not asking him to play out on the outside where he doesn't have the speed for that anymore. So I would be really pissed if we don't re-sign Debo Samuels. And I know some fans are like, oh, we don't want to, he's not worth it. Well, he's the best player we have on offense when Jaden's not on the field right now. I hate to tell you, but he is.
And now, and then if you don't ask him to be, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Well, I was going to. My first comment was going to be best skill player, because I think Laremy Tunsil may be the best player on the offense. Period. Even when Jaden's on the field. No, I'd bring Debo back. The other thing I want is Burks. I want him to re-sign Burks. I want Burks to have a full off season with his team. If for no other reason than that catch he made against Denver, that was absolutely ridiculous. And guys without skills don't make that. He showed real want to for me during the season.
He plays hungry, man. I like it.
He does. Yeah, he does. He's
hungry
big.
this year, I feel like.
Yes, and I feel like he's got that chip on his shoulder of, dude, I was drafted in the first round. I'm a first round draft pick. I got to prove to the world I'm a first round draft pick. I'm better than anybody saw in Tennessee. He's the kind of guy. He's the kind of young, hungry guy I want on this team. I think he could be that number two, and hell, maybe even be that number one when Terry finally hangs his cleats up. I don't know. Just
if they re-sign Noah Brown, I'm going on a damn hunger strike. I'm just telling you right now. Nobody may care at all, but I'm going on.
Yeah, I know. I'm.
Thank you,
I'm
Mr. Downey.
Yeah. No, thank you. All right. So on to, I guess we'll touch interior O-line. We had Julian Good-Jones listed as a center guard. I don't think we saw him at all.
Nope.
Then moving to the guard position, you've got Allegretti, Chris Paul, Andrew Wiley, who's listed as a guard / tackle. And then your center is literally Tyler Biadasz, if I'm not mistaken, who ended up on the IR. I think he's the only true center that's listed on the roster.
He is, but you could argue that Allegretti played 2 games for him at the end of the season, and the offense played fairly well.
So the two major guys that are free agents who will not be back unless we re-sign them, one is Andrew Wiley and one is Chris Paul. I think you absolutely have to bring Chris Paul back.
Chris Paul, absolutely. I did miss Paul. Why did I miss Paul?
I would bring Andrew Wiley back.
Did I say Paul? No, I said Paul. Okay.
He can play anywhere on the line. You know, he's a really great plug-in guy if you have somebody go down. And then we've also got guys like,
I think this is a position, if we're talking about if there's an offensive line position that could really use a target, doesn't necessarily mean a premium target, but a target offense. I think maybe left guard could be that place that you could find an upgrade, specifically somebody who can play center also. So you have a premium backup to Biadasz and somebody who can step into all 3 interior low line positions.
The other guys on the list, the free agency list, Trenton Scott, right tackle, is a free agent. George Font is a right tackle free agent. Lucas Niang. I think those are the other guys.
He tore his ACL early. I think it was in preseason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So then that means on the tackles,
all Trent Scott does,
guys that are
all Trent Scott does is catch touchdowns. We should.
Yeah. He'll be on the team. He'll be on the team for the fact that he caught Daniel's first TD. So the tackles that we have under contract, Laremy Tunsil, I think he's got 1 year left. We're probably looking at a blockbuster deal there. To your point, Trent Scott, George Fant.
Hopefully before the season starts. I just want to throw that out there. I hope to God we're talking about his contract in season.
Josh Connerly Jr., who is now just finished his first season, so he's under control for at least 5 or at least 4 more. And then Brandon Coleman, who I will say stepped in at left tackle when Tunsil went down over the last couple months or last couple games, and I think he played pretty well. So that could be that guy. Excuse me. Maybe he could push to be that, push Paul to start at left guard or something like that. All right. So that's offensive line. On to, we'll start at the front and move back. Defensive tackles. Right now listed is Sheldon Day, Javon Kinlaw, Johnny Newton, Deron Payne, and someone named Shai Tuttle, who I think was late. And then as I go down to the injured reserve, this is going to be an entire depth chart. Eddie Goldman, actually, most of them are listed at DN. Eddie Goldman was on IR. Dietrich Wise was on IR. He's listed as an end, but I think he's kind of a tweener. He played inside quite a bit. John, if I'm remembering correctly, Wise is a free agent.
Yep. Coming off a quad injury.
Goldman is a free agent.
That's right.
Deron Payne is not.
Sheldon
but
Day.
Deron Payne has Sheldon Day. Deron Payne's not, but he has no guaranteed money left on the deal. Or no, he does. Cut him and save $17 million instead of paying him $28 million.
And Jalen, let's see, Jalen Holmes is another free agent. And I don't know if we want to talk about edge yet, but out of the guys we've talked about, Wise is probably the biggest decision. And I liked him before he got hurt.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was. I think, honestly, I think you try to run it back a little bit with the interior, maybe move on from Payne, but I think you supplement that with edge. I don't know that you necessarily, unless you can find like a kind of a corn-fed interior meat eater guy to help with the run defense, but I don't know that you're not going to find Aaron Donald walking the street there. So, you just kind of need some space eaters and get some better pass rush to help the interior push quarterbacks forward. On to the end, where we had the biggest signing of the offseason already, and Andre Carter got signed to a futures deal this past week at the defensive end. The majority of our ends were on injured reserve. Dorrance Armstrong, Javonte Jean-Baptiste. We already mentioned Dietrich Wise. Armstrong, I believe, is still under contract. Jean-Baptiste is still on a rookie deal. And then we get into the guys who are actually somewhat healthy.
Armstrong's got 1 year left, right?
He's not a free agent, right, John?
Right.
You're correct.
Yeah, he's one of the initial 3-year deals that we gave out that first year when the current regime came in,
along with Luvu and Biotish.
Right.
Drake Jackson, a guy we signed off the street who could be kind of a steal. I'm interested in seeing what he can do. Jacob Martin.
He's a free agent. Jackson is.
So we need, if we want to keep him, we got to bring him back. Jacob Martin is a free agent.
Yep.
So is Von
Preston
Miller.
Smith is a free agent. Yep. I think he's listed as a linebacker, but
I thought Von Miller, what do you have, 9 sacks? I mean, they were kind of like the quietest sacks ever, but I still think, and he's 37, but I guess it depends on what do we do at edge, in the draft or otherwise. And I kind of look at a couple guys that way, but especially Von Miller.
I actually don't necessarily have a problem bringing Von Miller back as long as there isn't some young guy that we're high on that could get those reps. You know what I mean? I think Vaughn can potentially do for the edge guys what Bobby Wagner has done for a lot of the younger kids in general. His work ethic and the way he goes about doing his business is just obviously unparalleled when you look at his numbers.
So speaking of Wagner, he's pretty much the only, unless you want to call Von Miller linebacker. Wagner's pretty much the only linebacker that's a free agent that I saw. And I don't want. I think it's time to let that go. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
You can't get younger if you keep holding on to these guys. I mean, at some point,
I don't know. Maybe if I'm Dan, maybe I sit down with Bobby Wagner and say, "Hey, look, man, we just we've got to move on." However, if you're done playing, we'd be interested in talking about a position in the defensive coaching staff.
Well, I thought you were going to say defensive coordinator.
Hey, you know what? We could probably do a lot worse than Bobby Wagner.
It may not be as funny a joke at the end of the season as it is right now.
or in about 6 or 7 years, that guy.
He just seems like one of those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 or 7 years from now, that guy could easily have a headset on and be a DC. As he figures out his path. So as we get into linebackers, you mentioned Bobby Wagner.
Headset on to be a head coach.
Right. Bobby Wagner likely not retained because I don't know that you bring him back to be your third string linebacker. I don't know that he would want to do that. If he's on a roster, he's going to want to play football. But outside of that, you have Nick Bellore, who's a special teams guy. Ali Cajo, who I don't believe played much at all. He was a rookie. I want to say UDFA. And he might have been a practice squatter. Frankie Louvu, who's got 1 year left on his deal. Jordan McGee, who is on the second. I believe he just completed his second year of his rookie contract. Kane Medrano, who was a rookie. So there's at least going to be some consistency in that room, but I don't think that position is that question mark is answered unless Jordan McGee can take a big step. Who quietly had a good year, Bob. You brought it up. I think he ended up at 6th in tackles on the team, and that's in a limited snap count. So maybe this is a natural progression, but I still think you need to add something there. Just my opinion. A coverage linebacker, nickel guy. Maybe Medrano can do that. We just didn't see it.
So the position group where I think we see the most dramatic turnover is going to be the defensive backfield, because we've got Jonathan Jones going into free agency. We've got Noah Igbenogany. I'm just proud that I finally can pronounce his name correctly. And then we've also got I thought there was somebody else. Oh, Antonio Hamilton. But I might bring Jones back.
Lattimore. Lattimore's gone.
Lattimore's not gone. He's under contract, I think. He's under contract for another year. I think okay. Yes,
he's under contract, but he has no guaranteed money left on his deal either.
He's got another year left on his contract. I just think everybody thinks he's going to leave or be told to leave.
I think he's going to get cut because if I'm not mistaken, the final year of his deal is 0 guaranteed money, which means it costs you nothing to let him go.
Yeah, unless they're going to blame the coaching for his issues.
Right.
Who knows what they think about that?
Yeah,
and then
they've hung on to the. So far, they've hung on to the defensive backs coach.
Yeah. So I probably I don't know what you guys think about Igbenogany, but I thought he looked a lot better in 2024 than he did this past season. I just see him as a guy that he lets the receiver catch the ball and then tries to tackle him.
If anybody flashed this year, I think Hamilton flashed as much as anybody. And Amos, obviously, I think Amos was just coming into his own before he got hurt. So he's probably Amos and Sanderstill are probably your two carryovers, and then you might be able to pick one or two of these guys to bring back.
And I don't know. We don't have any safeties on the free agency list, but I don't know. I don't know how the safety room is. If we're going to see changes there.
Yeah, right now you have Percy Butler, Will Harris, Quan Martin, Tyler Owens, Jeremy Reeves. Jeremy Reeves should be a free agent. I'm pretty sure he only signed a 1-year deal.
I don't think so.
Was it a 2-year deal?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you might run that back unless you can get like
A lot of those
Caleb
guys
Downs.
are key special teamers too, so you got to kind of look at that
Like
as well.
If you take Caleb Downs in the first round, obviously that's going to change the dynamic of the room. But I don't think you look at that room as though, like, you could bring in some competition and they could supplant somebody. But yeah, there's 5 guys that are currently under contract. And again, it comes back to the defensive philosophy and what's going to happen there. So that'll change a lot of things and maybe elevate that unit.
And Tressway,
last group. Yep. I would say Tressway and Jake Moody too. Isn't Moody a free agent too?
I don't think so. I didn't
Our
see
kicker?
his name. Uh-huh.
I thought he
Somebody
was
look it
only
up.
brought in on a 1-year deal, but maybe not. But I hope they bring Tressway back. I would walk up to Tressway tomorrow and hand him a contract for 4 years and say, "Look, dude, here's $4 million a year. You walk away when you're ready." At this point,
Yeah.
like, why even? You know what I mean? If it's in 2 years, fine. But
I don't mind Moody, man. I mean, I'm kind of tired of us chasing kickers, you know. It's like they all are up and down. Or let me say this. The majority of NFL kickers are streaky and up and down. And I just feel like, you know, he's serviceable. That's just, I don't know. I'm tired of having a new kicker every year. Just stick with the guy.
not only having a new kicker every year, but you see guys like Riley Patterson still kicking. Joey Sly is still kicking. Graham Gano is still kicking. Dustin Hopkins is still kicking. Like,
What's your point with that? Because those guys all look terrible at times in their career.
but that's my point. that's my point. Is if you're expecting to find Justin Tucker or Adam Vinatieri walking the street, you're not gonna. It's not gonna happen.
I agree. Unless you have one of those guys, you're better off just like grinding it out when they're struggling. And unless I can't remember the kicker who missed like 3 or 4 in a playoff game a couple weeks ago. I can't remember who that was, but
Brandon Aubrey, the kicker from the Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't know who it was.
That wasn't a playoff game.
I think it was a playoff kicker, but unless they've totally lost it, you know, and have the yips and can't be cured, I just assume we not keep shuffling the kicker.
I agree. Gears, what are you thinking, Bob? Okay. Who's listed as our long snapper? Is it? I know we had one listed.
You know what?
Tyler Ott.
Whoever the if you don't know your long snapper's name, I think you keep him.
Good thing. That's right.
No, Tyler Ott is his. And he
You
was
know,
quality.
if you can't pick your long snapper out of a lineup, he's doing something right.
Yeah,
He's doing his job exactly. Who's apparently been in the league 11 years. If you would have had that on the Jeopardy wheel, nobody would have picked it. So,
I can't.
John
find
and I
the
were
name
kind of talking
on
about
the list.
I think we might have the most free agents of any team in the NFL. I tried to research that, but I couldn't find a source for it. But we have 30 free agents, which
Again.
what makes that incredible is that we had 61% roster turnover the first season of the Dan Quinn, Adam Peters era, and yet we're still leading the league in free agents. That blows my mind. That just means we've had incredible turnover, and we're going to have more incredible turnover, I think.
But what it also means is we're not handing out long-term deals. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know, but I know this. We brought in some guys off the street that I'm glad we didn't give long-term deals to. Right? Like,
well, we got a couple minutes. Can we talk about that? Because I don't think it's a good thing only philosophically. And I know what you just said is true. Like you don't want to sign people to 3-year deals if you're not sure they're really good enough to want them here for 3 seasons, which is a problem in and of itself, which is why are you looking at guys that aren't good enough to be here for more than 1 year? But I just think from a continuity perspective, you've already got coaching turnover, but now you add in the mix that I think one of the problems along with injuries this season was we just keep turning over the roster. These guys aren't playing with each other from season to season. And how the hell I don't know how you manage that. I don't know. And I don't know. I would love for Adam Peters to be asked that question, like, elaborate a little bit on why are we signing guys for 1-year deals so frequently? Like, what's the mindset of that? Because I don't know how you can overcome that kind of roster turnover every year. I don't think that's an NFL norm. I don't know what the percentage would be that is the norm for the NFL, but I mean, I know it's probably pretty high. But I think if you start turning over more than like a quarter of your roster every single season, how the hell do you get those guys to play together? I don't know. I guess you guys don't know either.
I don't think you're wrong, but I also it's going to take time, and I think it's going to take steps. When you're turning it over at 60%, at some point you've just got to, like, I hate to say this, you just got to have the bodies in camp to be able to put a roster together. And like, so where are you you're gonna have to pick and choose, and you're gonna have to find your like this guy, this handful of people is worth having here on a multi-year contract, but we still have to fill out 32 other positions, and we can't afford to do all of them on multi-year deals. And you've got to get I don't know. I just think it's going to take time. Unfortunately, it's I don't know. Do you want Colson Yankoff getting paid a 3-year deal because he's on the roster and he's consistent? Like, I like the kid, but I don't know.
No, but I'd like to have Deebo Samuels on a 3-year deal since we gave up a 5th-round draft pick for him. Right. I mean, I'm just saying. I know. I guess when you're a bad team, you have bad players who aren't worth signing for more than a year at a time. And maybe it's not any more complicated than that. So let's not be a bad team anymore. Let's let's be a good team, and then we'll re-sign people.
What do you say, Bob?
I feel like we started down this road because the initial intention was to build to the draft. And I'm sorry. We hit one out of the park that first year, and I feel like the plan, I don't want to say changed wholesale, but certainly shifted to a certain degree. And I think Adam Peters may be just a little gun shy over signing other guys to long-term deals that their teams don't want to hang on to. Which I kind of understand. I mean, you got drafted by somebody, you've played there 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and they don't want to keep you. Think about the number of guys we've had that fit that bill. How many of them have gone on to do amazing things someplace else? Not many. You look around and look at the draft choices from the 2-3 years before Adam Peters showed up. Dotson's the 3rd wide receiver in Philadelphia at best, and he's not getting many balls thrown his way. Forbes started the season as a starter with the Rams, but he didn't finish the season as a starter. Chase Young has not been a starter since he left here for anybody full time.
He's starting to come on, but I mean, he's physically not to the level of where we drafted him at.
No, certainly not. What's the linebacker finished the season on somebody's practice
squad?
Davis.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are reasons why Adam Peters is doing what he's doing. I'm not suggesting like he's clueless and doesn't have a rationale. I'm just saying, just from a pure logic perspective, when you're turning over that much of your roster every season, that's my question. How can you be consistent? How can you play good football and have guys working together? I think it's a problem. I don't know.
Well, all right. And here's the other thing, John. I don't think we're turning over quite as much of the roster as maybe it looks like. Stop and consider for a moment. We signed Bobby Wagner to a 1-year deal. He played well. We turned around and signed him to another 1-year deal. That's not turnover. He was a free agent, but he stayed. Same with Zach Ertz. I think Igbenamine was in that boat too, right? We've had a number of guys who chose to sign a second 1-year deal with us and may turn around and sign another 1-year deal with us. Maybe it's possible that we wanted to sign Wagner to a 2-year deal and he didn't want a 2-year deal. You reach a certain age in the NFL, and my guess is you're like, okay, I'm going to do it this year, but am I going to do it next year? Let's sign a 1-year deal and see.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. That'll be an interesting exercise. We'll circle back around after free agency is over, and we'll see how many of the guys the 30 that we listed tonight were re-signed. And
and of the 30 that we talked about, there's probably only 7 or 8 that we kind of all three agreed that we would want to bring back.
Probably.
Hey,
yeah.
I went and looked Moody up. He is maybe your list didn't have this, John, because he's a restricted rights. He's an exclusive restricted rights free agent for us. So he's not a true free agent. He can't, unless we just turn him down flat, he can't just sign anywhere.
Okay.
All right, boys. Well, real quick, rosters, we kind of ran down that. We are staring down the barrel of the conference championship games. Patriots at Broncos, Rams at Seahawks. Who you guys like this weekend? Because Bob is the freaking Nostradamus of the BGO Pick'em contest and has won it with 2 weeks to go. But congratulations, my friend.
2 weeks. 2 weeks sounds like there's a lot. There's only 3 football games left.
Hey, stop. I'm trying to give you credit. Shut up.
I know. If you'd asked me before the next to the last play of the Denver game who was going to win between, the Denver-New England matchup, I would have said Denver. Yeah. And then that next to last play happened, and Bo Nix isn't going to be back until the 2027 season. So at the moment, I'm feeling like New England. And God, I hate to say it, but I probably have to pick Seattle this weekend. As far as, if I'm picking with my heart, it's the Rams because I want to see McVay do it again. But if I'm picking with my head, it's probably Seattle. They just absolutely dismantled San Francisco this last weekend.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually go with the Broncos, man, because I think they're that team this year, that like team of destiny, and I almost feel like Bo Nix getting knocked out of the game is going to be like a battle cry, inspirational kind of a thing for them. And I just think it's really hard to play in altitude, harder than people realize. And I think you saw that last weekend. I know the Patriots are playing well. May's, getting it done. But I just have a feeling the Broncos are going to – I don't know that they're going to pass 40 times in that game.
Really?
But I just have a feeling they're going to find a way to win it. And I have a hard time picking the other game because it's really hard to win in Seattle. But I just have a feeling that Stafford is going to do Stafford things. And so I'm going to pick the Rams in that one.
That's fair.
Yeah, give me
to be totally humiliated by that pick.
give me both road teams. Give me the Patriots, give me the Rams. I know Seattle looked dominant, but I just don't know that the Rams are going to lay down
So we all had different picks, man. That tells you it's going to be 2 good
it is
championships.
Yep.
I hope it's going to be a couple of good games. I'd hate to see 2 games like the Seattle San Francisco game this last weekend. That'd be kind of sad.
I'm in North Carolina. I just hope I have power.
Yeah, the weather's going to be bad.
Same here. I just think about all the bad playoff football we've seen in recent years, and we've really had every single game except the Seattle San Francisco game so far this offseason has been an absolute barn burner. Top-notch football. Well, maybe not top-notch football, but top-notch entertainment value. All of them coming down to the final couple of minutes, anybody's ball game. It's for a football fan, it's been heaven.
Yeah. Except for the refs.
Well,
so, all right, fellas. Well, as we always say, it's been a pleasure. If you made it this long, cheers to you. Hook us up with that share, that follow, that like. You can catch us on all major audio platforms, youtube.com, all major socials at the mothership, bgobsession.com. And the pigs are out.